This instrument is called a melodica. The tune almost everybody will have heard before. This girl has never heard it, and she never will. She is quite deaf. To have a soul is to be alive. The first sign of life is movement. Because the sea moves endlessly, poets can speak of it as a living thing. But the sea is not really alive, and not every movement is a sign of life. Movement that comes from within an organism is living movement. It is the outward sign of an inner soul. A rock limpet has a soul, a sensitive soul. It can move in a very restricted way, but it is alive in a sense in which the sea and the rocks are not. It has one sense, touch, but this single sense is enough to allow the outside world to invade it by way of information without destroying it. It is locked into a dark, silent world. It can communicate with nothing, not even its own kind. The snail, too, is sensitive to touch, but it has a far greater range of movement from within than the limpet. It has a second sense, a kind of primitive vision. The two long, horn-like antennae are rudimentary eyes which catch the light and help to guide it. The butterfly can move freely in search of food and can see in all directions simultaneously. It has 1,000 eyes, which build up a picture of the world like a vast mosaic. It can not only see, it can be seen by its mate, and is beautifully decorated in order to be seen. The dog can smell a trail of scent. He has highly developed taste buds. He can see over a vast range of distances and lights. He can hear sounds well beyond the range of the human ear. But only the human organism can think. Only man has a rational soul. Because he has a rational soul, man can laugh and play self-invented games. This game is probably 1,000,000 years old. It is not difficult to play. When the children hear one another say, "Asha, Asha," they all act together, all but one. This child cannot hear. She was born deaf, and her mind is locked into a silent room.
This is Joan's hearing aid. It is broken. It's not broken now. I can hear with it. Will I put it on? Will I put it on? All right. Ba, 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 ba. Is it all right, Joan? Is it all right? Ba, 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 ba. Can you hear? No? Can you hear now? Is it all right? Will you say ba, ba, ba? Ba, ba, ba. Lovely. Now I'll put it in your pocket.
Mother Mary Nicholas is principal of St. Mary's Dominican School for Deaf Girls at Cabra, where she and her staff conduct a clinic and an educational complex for hard of hearing and profoundly deaf children.
Joan is one of 200 children in a school for hearing impaired children. You know, it is difficult for us to realize in this technological age that there are still amongst us children who cannot hear, adults who cannot hear, even though we can hear sound from satellites orbiting in space. Deafness is a hidden handicap, and one which is difficult to understand for that very reason. There are no visible physical abnormalities as in the case of blindness or cerebral palsy. And for that reason, it is difficult to understand the profound handicap.
It will help, however, to understand if we look at a much enlarged model of the human ear. It has three parts: the outer, the middle, and the inner ears. The sound is collected by the outer ear. It strikes the eardrum, which vibrates. The vibrations of the eardrum are passed through to the middle ear. Here, a tiny chain of bones receives them and passes them on to the inner ear. At this point, they are received by the nerve of hearing, and thence they are conducted to the brain, where they are decoded. The vital part of the inner ear is the cochlea. If this is damaged, very little can be done to repair it. It is so small that surgery cannot yet be applied to it.
Good evening. Here is the news. The ESB trouble.
In the hearing impaired population, we find children with varying degrees of deafness. Some are born profoundly deaf, and because of this, they remain dumb unless they receive special educational treatment. Others hear a distorted form of speech.
A man, for example, with a high tone loss in hearing will hear consonants as blurred, although vowel sounds may be fairly clear, like this.
Are responsible, respectable men, and there is no red element in their ranks. Mr. Cassidy said the mechanical fitters did not have the recognition which they deserved.
A person with a low tone loss will hear the vowels distorted, but consonants may come through quite well. Speech may be squeaky and harsh, but it can retain a high level of intelligibility, like this.
Talks to settle the dispute will be dismissed tomorrow night. Dr. Harry Corse-Cadden, chairman of the Northern Ireland Banks Committee, said today
That the offer of a
Then the
7.5% salary
profoundly deaf,
increase in
for whom all sounds are blurred and intelligibility is at a minimum, if indeed it exists at all. The noise that she does hear, a child needs special training, and this can only be done when the extent of her deafness is established.
How can we detect deafness in an infant? We are no longer dependent on chance observations that a child is dumb or that the child has a running ear. We now have techniques for the testing of hearing of infants. We concentrate on those children that we call at risk. Children, for instance, who have a family history of deafness, whose mothers have had German measles or other infectious disease during pregnancy. Those who have been jaundiced at birth owing to rhesus incompatibility. All these children should have their hearing tested from the age of 4 months. It is impossible to get cooperation from an infant of 5 or 6 months, but in the audiology clinic, sounds are produced and the child's reaction to the sound is noted. The partially hearing child will react to voice or to loud sounds. The totally deaf child will only react to vibration.
With the help of a simple game, a record can be made of the degree of hearing loss in a child. When she hears a sound, she takes a wooden sailor out of a toy boat. Modern scientific teaching of the deaf depends on using the vibrations of the waves caused by sounds as they travel through the air. The child stands between two enormous loudspeakers. The sound waves from these strike her on the chest and eardrums, and she is trained to respond by taking a step forward. If the note played is of such high frequency that the vibrations cannot be felt on the eardrum or chest cavity, she remains still. Because amplified sound waves from the speakers must strike her directly on the chest and head and not come up through her feet, she must stand on a special floor which does not vibrate. When vibrations are felt, the child acts as if she heard them. This is the first step in substituting feelings of sound for hearing. The child has now been provided with a trained awareness of the sound wave vibrations, which can be used by the teacher in the development of speech.
Now, Mary. And this one. Now, we'll turn it on. Now, watch. Oh, that's lovely. And what about...
We often think that hearing aids produce sounds for the deaf. They do not. Headphones or hearing aids cannot make the deaf hear. Nothing can make the deaf hear. Headphones simply amplify the buzz feelings which cannot be heard. But from these feelings, the child is learning to speak.
We try with this. Huh? Very good. And huh? What about trying? That's lovely. Now, we'll try voice. You feel here. Down here.
Because the child has been taught to recognize sound vibrations, it can pick them up from other people. In the same way, it can be taught to reproduce them. Slowly, the vibrations are associated by the child with her own tongue and lip movements. And this association permits the child to produce a sound that it can never hear. But these sounds are the elements of speech.
Bee. That's a hard one, isn't it? Up here. Bee. Good girl. Bee. That's much better. And can you... Lovely. You try it with your tongue up. Bee. All right. And what about ba ba ba? Ba ba ba. And da 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 da. You don't know that one. You try it again. Da 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 da.
When parents discover deafness in their child, it is a very shattering experience, and they tend to change their attitude towards the child.
I was very young, very inexperienced, and deafness was a thing that I never associated with small babies or with children.
And everybody seemed to be more concerned with how I would treat the child than about the child himself. And my reaction was, well, I must look an awful monster, I must look terrible, or there was something, I didn't know what it was all about.
Then you thought that, well, maybe it's only a passing thing. You had the hope that it would pass with time, or with the advances being made in medical science, that in time they'd be able to do some corrective surgery. Of course, you do reach the stage where it seeps through finally that there's just nothing. It's a hopeless case, and you have a major problem on your hands.
I think most people feel sort of, why should it have happened to us? Why to our child? You know, why? What is the reason? And you keep thinking sort of all the time too, well, what can be done? I mean, your first feeling is, well, there can be an operation or treatment or something, and it takes a long time to sort of realize that, well, that isn't the fact. But I think once you begin to accept this, sort of, well, it's half the battle.
I remember coming to see Aideen when she was about 10. And while she spoke to me and used words to me, some other little girl came into the room and she made all these signs to her. And I slapped down her hand and I said, Aideen, why don't you talk to the little girl and not make signs? There's no good talking to her, she said, she's deaf.
You would worry, I think, more about the boys than the girls. I have both. I have a deaf boy and a deaf girl. And I would say my worries for Cormac are far greater than those for Niamh. Because the boy is naturally the provider, or the man is the provider in any house. And while a deaf boy, or I should say a deaf girl, has every opportunity, I would say, of marrying a normal hearing person, the chances of a deaf boy marrying a normal girl are very slim indeed.
Boy. 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 Good. Now. The boy. The boy is wearing long trousers. Trousers. Good.
When the elements of speech are mastered, they must next be made into words. Trousers are speech elements and not speech. Trousers is speech.
Trousers. Trousers. Good. Now.
Next, sentences must be taught.
Pig. Now. It is a pig.
It is a pig.
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 Good. Now can you say, it is a pig?
It is a pig.
Good.
Give this to, let me see, give it to Martina. This is for Martina.
When the sentence is mastered, speech becomes language. Language is not mere speech, but the communication of ideas through speech. It is not merely a means of expressing oneself, it is a means of thinking.
How many cows are there? How many cows are there? 2 cows. I think 3 cows. How many? Cows. How many cows? Martina, how many cows?
3.
3 cows, that's right, 3 cows.
The difference between the words cows and houses is very small, particularly when lip read. The children must be taught to lip read. Their hearing aids are disconnected, and they are now totally dependent on what their eyes can tell them.
The farmyard. Farmyard. No, it's not farmyard. The farmyard.
Farmyard.
Joyce, will you come to me, please, Joyce? Hurry along. Now, you come along and see. And you see what's that?
Pet shop.
A pet shop. What is Mary doing?
Mary is lucky at the shop window.
Clever girl. Show me the puppy. That's right. Can you say the puppy is in the shop window?
That puppy is in our shop window.
Clever. Show me the tortoise. Show me the tortoise. The tortoise, yes. Can you say the tortoise is very slow?
That tortoise is very slow.
Right. Show me the guinea pigs. That's right. How many guinea pigs?
2 guinea pigs.
Can you say the guinea pig has no tail?
The guinea pig has no tail.
And no tail.
The speech in the case of the profoundly deaf child is never normal. It couldn't be, because such a child has no auditory impressions to help to get intonation and to get rhythm in speech. Though every effort is made in the school for the deaf to help the child to get some idea of intonation and some idea of rhythm.
Now, I want you to play that on the organ.
This is not a music lesson, this is a speech lesson. The rhythm of the child's breathing and the vibrations of the sounds produced will form a habit of speech intonation.
Now say it on one breath.
I'm a good girl.
These girls are hearing no sounds, but the rhythmical patterns of the vibrations they cause are pleasant. This pleasure cultivates their emotions and deepens their ability to communicate. And this is the function of human language.
Where did I get this bar of chocolate, Frankie?
From my shop.
And where did the shop get it from?
From a factory.
Now, we are going to go back to the very beginning.
With the coming of language, the world becomes intelligible. The deaf child now has a place in it. A buzzing confusion is reduced to unity. The deaf child, through the magic of language, can understand causes, can understand God and religion and moral ideas. For those who are too old or too ill, the language of signs must suffice.
Some of the deaf talk to one another in signs. God chose to tell men about his plan of salvation in signs also. Men read these signs anxiously so that they would know what God meant. But God showed his meaning very slowly and little by little. We must see ourselves as a special people to whom God still speaks in signs. He has a special purpose for us.
This man is deaf and dumb and blind, yet he lives in a world of light and love because he can communicate. The cat, with all its 5 senses, lives in a twilight world compared to the educated human being. The education of the deaf is not merely useful, it is an entry into the beautiful.
I'm 21 and have been deaf since birth. I learned to live with and speak in school. I love drawing. It is my favorite hobby. I copy other pictures most of the time. Sometimes I try to draw real things and they don't turn out so well. My favorite subject is elements. I don't like drawing faces. I must look at faces all the time in conversation and I get tired. I like to visit the municipal art gallery. I love the umbrella's picture that is by Velvar. I think that is beautiful. I like dancing. My brother could not first understand how I dance to music, but it is easy. I follow my partner all the time. My favorite is the waltz. People who are blind miss a lot. I'm deaf. I live in a silent world. But blind people are in a dark world all the time. They can't see pictures. I can ride a bicycle and walk in the mountains. I don't need help. Blind people do. It is not so bad to be deaf. I hear with my eyes. I can read lips on people who are talking, if they don't speak too fast, if they have little patience.
A little patience.